because I didn't have an original bottle. It's actually called Tullamore Dew Old Bonded Warehouse. Old Bonded Warehouse Release, in fact, the full name. This is whiskey that was produced just for sale in our old bonded warehouse. So if you're visiting our bonded warehouse in Dublin, or in Tullamore, God forgive me for saying Dublin, if you're visiting in Dublin, then this whiskey was produced for sale only at our visitor centre. Again, it's a Tullamore Dew original in the sense of it being 3 different styles of whiskies, all triple distilled with 3 different casks. The differences in the cask regimen here. The casks here are actually casks, the cask regimen are much more influenced by the sherry casks than the sherry cask influence in the first 2. And the reason for this is that this whiskey was developed to reflect another whiskey we had in the past, which was called Tullamore Dew Black. And for any of you who have known Tullamore Dew Black in the past, it was a whiskey that was produced in the 90s, sold in certain markets, not in every market. It became a kind of a collector's item if the Tullamore Dew fans tended to focus on getting access to black. And this is a style of whiskey which is more in the direction of black, in that there's a little bit more pot still and there's a little bit more of the sherry cask influence. And it becomes obvious. This whiskey is a 46% whiskey also. So a little drop of water will help this if you're inclined. I never put much water in it, but I always put a little drop. This whiskey is less about the fruit, more about the spice, more about the dried fruits, probably raisins, sultanas, etc. So I mean, it's a fantastic whiskey. It's one I love dearly. I love it for its richness. I love it for its sherry cask influence, and particularly for that dried fruit and nuts note that comes through it. That's the pot still whiskey having greater influence from the sherry casks, gives us that. We talk about Christmas cake frequently in the whiskey business. A lot of people talk about it, and this one in particular for me is about that whiskey, that Christmas cake style of influence in terms of dried fruits, nuts, and spice. They're all in there. Unfortunately, our visitor centre has closed, so the old bonded warehouse release whiskey is now not available for sale. However, for those of you who may or may not know, our plan is for the visitors to Tullamore to now visit the actual distillery and have a full distillery experience. We're at the moment renovating the distillery to allow it to become a visitor-friendly facility. You will get a much better and more informed visit to the distillery than you might have got back in the visitor centre, which is a beautiful old building in the town. And the visitor centre, what it will deliver for you is much greater access to the facilities at the distillery. You will see the whiskey being made and matured. But on top of that, what you will also do is you'll get to taste the component elements of the whiskey, and you'll get to blend your own style. You get to choose your own style of whiskey, of which a triple blend would be obvious, and you would choose your own triple blend. So it'll be a wonderful experience if and when we have it open. I expect it to be open at the end of September, early October. It's very hard to stand over delivery dates on construction and renovation these days, as you can imagine, but that's the plan at the moment, and it looks like we'll be able to. And at that time, we will have a distillery-specific whiskey, something like the old bonded warehouse, which will only be available for sale and for purchase at the distillery itself. So keep an eye on our website if you're watching our website or our social media channels to keep up to date on that. So that one is the old bonded warehouse release.